Talk Live, live on IG and YouTube. Sorry, I am just dealing with an injury here, a bit of a bicep pull. I wouldn't say a tear, but it was a pull, and that really, I doped up on painkillers right now. So I'm not feeling much pain, but there's still a little bit of a dull one in the background. So my apologies for the delay, but my left bicep feels not the greatest at the moment. But thank you very much for joining me back here on Talk Live. We are live. We are back here, ladies and gentlemen, here for another week news views that you can use, ladies and gentlemen. So, sponsored by DunTalk, DUNTALK.com. Even though I don't have Dun Talk today, we'll be back tomorrow. But yes, so let's get into this. Let's have no hesitation on this. Do comment in the chat to make sure that everybody recognizes me on their YouTube screens and also on their Instagram screens. So we are filming simultaneously, ladies and gentlemen, on our new OBS platform, which is outstanding, fantastic. I'm finally getting the hang of it. So thank you very much for joining me here in Talk Live. So let's get into this. Let's not waste any more time, ladies and gentlemen. Here we go. And let me get back here. Yes, indeed. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are following the post of Chinese Observer. But shout out to my man Chisa Zed, who was featuring this video. Actually, I'll stay over here. Thank you very much. That's a better way to go. Who is featuring this video on his channel. I thought I'd give my own take on things here. So, shout out to Chisa Zed. Do like and subscribe to Chisa Zed, doing wonderful things in YouTube streets, especially with his prenuptial agreement program and course, ladies and gentlemen. So, yes, we're going to get into this here. The title from China Observer, which is 727,000 of subscribers. So China's doing well in these streets, even though YouTube is an American platform. China has the highest number of single women and divorce rates. Toxic advice destroys Chinese women. Yes, indeed. Feminism has taken over the Chinese airwaves, and quite simply, wait, let's do this here before I get into it. And has literally poisoned a lot of Chinese minds when all would see Chinese women as submissive. Well, that is not the case, especially with the influx of capitalism into the Chinese economy, and girls wanting more, having more careers, having more wealth. And that means that feminism has creeped in where it wasn't expected to be. And quite simply, this is reflected in new divorce numbers, in the new breakup numbers, in the demands of women have. So we're just gonna go into this video. Nice short video tonight. And tomorrow night we're gonna get into Cassie because Cassie Ventura from the former Bad Boy recording artist and now $30 million woman is now being sued, of course, by one of her escorts that she summoned for, yes, the freak off. So we're gonna get into that tomorrow night on Talk Live. But tonight, let's head to China. Let's head to mainland China, and why indeed the divorce rates are some of the highest in the world, not just in the Western world, not just in the Eastern world, but in the world, ladies and gentlemen, for the most populated country on the planet, ladies and gentlemen. So let's get into this here on Talk Live, live on IG and YouTube. Like, subscribe, comment on the road to 1,000 subscribers. Let's get into it.
中国的女光棍是世界最多的。
China has the highest number of single women in the world. It also has one of the highest divorce rates globally. In most cases, divorces are initiated by women. Nowhere else do women look down on men as much as in China. Nowhere else do women demand such high bride prices. Nowhere else do so many women abandon their husbands and children.
Well, look at that. It looks like China is not immune to the feminist regime, ladies and gentlemen. And quite simply, men are feeling the pinch, and ladies are taking advantage of their new elevated status in society, and are now the behavior is reflecting the West in more ways than one. Let's continue.
Where else do so many divorced women seek wealthier partners? And most of them don't succeed. What's the reason behind this, friends? There's only one reason. Chinese women have been consuming too much toxic positivity advice. They've been told that men should earn money while women should focus on looking beautiful.
Again, so ladies and gentlemen, as you can see, women are addicted to social media. addicted to comparing themselves to others, and so they believe that women should be waited on hand and foot, and men should foot the bill for their lifestyle and for marriage and for the rising costs of having living. Even though China has one of the highest inflation rates in the world. Let's continue.
That men struggle to find wives, but women never have trouble finding husbands. This so-called wisdom has left women dazed, confused and disoriented. Completely lost and disoriented. This elderly man's remarks may be extreme, but real-life cases do support some of his views. In January 2025, an online court trial video sparked widespread controversy across the Chinese internet.
As a father, you've never called your child, never cared about her life, never taken responsibility for their education. You haven't even made a single phone call in a year. You've deprived my child of a father's love. You've taken no responsibility for this family, not even a cent as a father.
Does that sound familiar, ladies and gentlemen? I just tried to interject it. Does that sound familiar? Very much like the West in their outlooks, and especially with women with newfound freedoms, are taking advantage of said freedoms and holding men's feet to the fire, even though many don't deserve it. Let's continue.
You've never cared about your child's life or education.
In the 7.5-minute courtroom video, nearly 7 minutes were filled with the plaintiff, Yan Dongping, voicing her accusations. To any observer, she appeared to be a deeply wounded wife, an abandoned mother, while her husband was seemingly an irresponsible man. But a single statement from her husband, Sheng Zhubao, shattered the entire performance. I was working in Beijing. I gave you all my money without keeping a single cent for myself. Finally, the judge delivered the verdict. The couple's joint property, a car, is awarded to the plaintiff, Yan Dongping. At that moment, before the camera was turned off, Yan Dongping turned her head and smiled. A smile filled with an indescribable sense of sweetness and triumph.
Indeed, because she knows she's won. She knows she's taken advantage of the system created by the Chinese government nowadays. Because again, a lot of the Chinese government are now very much capitalist in their outlook, very much leaving responsibility for family to men, very much like the West. So they're getting much more westernized as time goes on, and women are taking advantage of this, lock, stock, and barrel. As you can see, when it comes to the divorce settlement, the lady got the car, the lady got a bit of alimony and also child support. Let's continue.
Many viewers, it felt as if she was looking at someone she truly loved. This scene deeply wounded her weary and honest husband, who quietly wiped away the tears at the corner of his eyes.
Yeah, I mean, women are shown how they beat the system, how they use the system to their advantage, and how indeed, with such winnings, they tend to gloat at times, and that sent shockwaves through the Chinese social media that a woman would be so callous and cold in terms of her victory, and rubbing it in the guy's face, who was clearly distraught by the settlement laid out by the Chinese court. Let's continue.
This scene didn't just wound her husband, it struck a nerve with every viewer watching. And so, what people jokingly called the first world-famous painting of 2025, Yan Dongping's smile, was born, ultimately making her the target of online outrage. As the controversy grew, the truth began to surface. When the couple first went to the Civil Affairs Bureau to finalize their divorce, they were required to undergo a 1-month cooling-off period, a policy introduced under China's 2021 marriage law.
I mean, look at the lines at this bureau that in China with regards to divorce rules. They are very, very long lines, as you can see. It just shows the dissatisfaction of women with men in China, ladies and gentlemen. Men who are seen as old school protectors and providers, and women taking advantage of the system for their own selfish needs. Let's continue.
Intended to promote marital stability. But in Miss Yan's case, that month became the perfect opportunity for her to execute a carefully planned strategy. Under the pretense of achieving financial independence through an online store, she escalated her demands, stripping the father of visitation rights and even insisting that their daughter change her surname, severing all ties between them. People quickly exposed the so-called financial independence as nothing more than a sham. Miss Yan's online store was merely a business license on paper, with little to no actual revenue. The family's middle-class lifestyle, owning a home and a car in a third or fourth-tier city, was entirely built on years of her husband's hard-earned wages from working in the big city. This divorce case ignited a firestorm online, striking at a painful reality in China's urbanization process. Millions of left behind families follow the same survival model, husbands working in distant cities while wives stay behind to raise children. In truth, this phenomenon stems from deeper systemic issues, including the household registration system and unequal distribution of educational resources. For many migrant workers in similar situations, the Yan case served as a wake-up call, highlighting the risks they too might one day face. The most troubling part is that the betrayer pays no price. In recent years, with the economic fallout from the pandemic, many men lost their jobs or suffered business failures. In almost every case, it was the women who quickly filed for divorce.
Wow, that sounds familiar, doesn't it? Yes, indeed. These ways don't play out there. If a man's not earning enough, if they aren't sticking to looks like the rule of six, in terms of six figures, 6 inches, 6 feet tall, and a six pack. But more importantly, the fact that they cannot provide to their families or to their women to a certain amount, then well, it's left to the divorce, and more often than not, the woman makes out like bandits in these instances, way more so than they do with their Western counterparts. Let's continue.
Often walking away with whatever little assets remained. For many men, marriage has reduced them to mere providers, financial tools discarded with no fair outcome. This has fueled growing anxiety among young men about marriage. Statistics show that over 40% of men born in the 90s and 2000s now express a fear of marriage. Cases like Jan's only deepen this fear, and she is far from an isolated example.
So again, now men are fearing marriage. Now men are not wanting to get involved in marriage at all because they know that the court system is very much with women. As I say, there will be no feminist protests outside of family court because the the law is stacked for them. So there's no need. It's counterproductive. And the same is here in China, more so than not, because I think things are very draconian in China at the time, where they think men are the ones who are supposed to protect and provide. For the most part, women are, as stated, are supposed to stay home, take care of the children, cook, clean, make sure that man is provided for in that capacity. But don't realize, not without realizing that they need to make changes for said freedoms of women, and the fact that these women are using social media to compare each other, and with that, speaking to each other as to what their expectations are. And with those expectations come a lack of satisfaction. With that, a lack of satisfaction, come divorce proceedings, ladies and gentlemen, because they know they can win. They know they can win big. Let's continue.
People have responded with bitter laughter, saying that with a single smile, Yan has pushed China's record low marriage rate even lower. No one knows exactly who that smile was meant for, but one thing is clear: it has left many men terrified. Terrified of walking away from a marriage with nothing. Terrified that one day their own wives might flash a Yan style smile.
Indeed, that goes without saying, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, I mean, men in the West, men in the East, men with with the same sort of family court system of divorce laws are fearing getting involved with women, because they know that if a woman on a whim is dissatisfied with the male, they can easily walk away and be paid for it. So they are incentivized to leave, ladies and gentlemen, and you think that a place such as China, which is very much, uh, more or less socialist in their views, would not think of such things. But again, with modernity, and with China being more capitalist and more, I wouldn't say more democratic, but definitely more capitalist in their viewpoints, you know, they're everybody wants, especially women, they want a bigger piece of the pie. now that they have newfound freedoms. And as you can see by Yan Dongping, she is satisfied with the new freedoms to the point of taking most of the fortune of her ex-husband and using it and taking it to her own advantage, which is a sad state of affairs indeed that China would sink so low. But with the movement of capitalism and feminism, we are here. Let's continue.
Scrolling through social media, it's easy to find boastful statements like, I can drive, I can earn money, I can cook, so why do I need a man? This certainly reflects women's independence.
Sound familiar, ladies and gentlemen? Let's continue.
But the way it's framed is a classic example of toxic positivity rhetoric, one that exposes the distorted gender perceptions shaped by the CCP state system. While official media promotes gender equality on the surface, it simultaneously allows various independent social media platforms to spread extreme feminist narratives. This false notion of women's liberation is, in reality, a betrayal of genuine gender equality. Is finding a partner only about having someone who can cook, earn money, and drive? Relationships are built on emotional connection, mutual understanding, and growing together, things that shouldn't be overlooked. True independence should empower people to choose meaningful relationships rather than dismissing the value of companionship. Are material possessions like luxury homes and cars the ultimate measure of success? Placing too much emphasis on material wealth may reflect a mindset that prioritizes external achievements over deeper fulfillment in life. Most importantly, equating not needing a man with independence shifts away from the true meaning of gender equality and can even disrupt social harmony. This mindset is, in reality, extreme individualism and outright materialism disguised as progress. It can be seen as a toxic version of the independent woman ideal, one that has contributed to cases like Jan's.
Ladies and gentlemen, let me say this. With new economies, with new freedoms for women, they work hand in hand to lay waste to a lot of traditional views and traditional ideas about love, marriage, um, and and basically raising families and struggling together. A lot of these women now state that with their newfound wealth and with their newfound independence, they don't need men, very much like the West. And Asian women who are seen as some of the more sort of cooperative, submissive women are taking up very, very unsavory Western traits and carrying it into their lives to the point where they don't need any controls in terms of having children. Those controls are already steeped into the Chinese fabric through these newfound freedoms for women, newfound feminism found, and toxic positivity that women are following there in China. And the most populous country in the world will have the same sort of downturn that South Korea is having, in which they're following the four, I think it's the 4 R's of no marriage, no sex, no children, and no dating. So again, it's a sad state of affairs that the most populous country in the world are. I mean, it's good for population control, but at the end of the day, this may indeed bring things to such an extent that there aren't as much births to sustain a society in China, and very much like a lot, and I do mean a lot of Asian countries such as Japan and South Korea. Let's continue.
Another form of toxic positivity rhetoric is the princess syndrome narrative, often expressed as women should be beautiful and men should be the providers. This idea is misleadingly packaged as traditional virtue and widely promoted on social media. As a result, many single women possessively wait for a dominant CEO type partner to appear, quite popular in romanticized Chinese dramas.
Logically, there should be plenty of wealthy CEOs fighting over me. Look at me, I was born naturally beautiful and I just don't get it. Someone as pretty as me, why have I waited 36 years and not a single CEO has shown up?
Some
Wow, doesn't that sound familiar? The woman near her end of her fertile life, still believing that a CEO should be, again, it's the whole, um, you know, 50 Shades of Grey syndrome, where a lot of these women feel that, uh, this romanticized CEO should be sweeping them off their feet, paying for all their bills, giving them a lifestyle which they deserve. So again, feminism rears its ugly head in China, and it is sad to see that what would be considered a very patriarchal society is changing slowly but surely nowadays, in which women take advantage of these newfound freedoms. I mean, a 36-year-old here in the states, in China, anywhere in the world should be a little more humble in terms of her outlook and in terms of what she demands of a man. But it turns out it isn't the case. And again, the same way that women here romanticize about men being, the full of six pack, six figures, 6 inches or more, and 6 feet taller or more. The same thing happens in China. So this is a worldwide thing, even in places like communist China, socialist China, that has that capitalist slant. Let's continue.
Once stable families have also been torn apart by these unrealistic fantasies of happiness. Miss Hu Pei is a typical case. Her husband earned 10,000 yuan a month, enough for a comfortable life, but she became consumed by online toxic positivity narratives. Women should be princesses, deserve the best cosmetics and designer bags, and must have a handsome, wealthy CEO picking them up in a luxury car every day. She began to resent her current lifestyle.
I don't want to live in that rundown house anymore. I want to be like my friends, living in a nice apartment. I want to be stylish, sophisticated girl. I have high standards for myself, and I'm very picky.
With her husband,
Wow. Social media has come to destroy even China itself. Absolutely unbelievable. The same thing that we see here in the West, the same thing we're starting to see in China, and it is heartbreaking to see. Absolutely heartbreaking. But with capitalism now taking hold in China in more ways than one, and social media having such hegemony over women, again, those who overdose on social media tend to be women. We're now seeing the results. We're now seeing that women are not satisfied with their lifestyles, with their men at all. And if they're not going to get what they see, they're, what men they see many in social media have, which may be a lie in and of itself. They are leaving their men, and they'll they'll do bad all by themselves. Let's go.
she became increasingly aggressive.
If the makeup I wear, the clothes on my back, and everything I eat and use don't come from you, then you're a complete failure as a man.
Even during mediation, her husband was still thinking about her well being. I sought mediation because I want you to have a good life. But she responded coldly, "You're not my parents. I don't need you worrying about my marriage." In the end, Zhang Liwei could only sigh in resignation and say, "Marriage is supposed to be about sharing responsibilities equally, right? But everything that should have been shared between us, I ended up shouldering it alone, and I spoiled her into having princess syndrome." This story ultimately ended in tragedy. When the wealthy CEO Jiang Dong appeared, Hu Pei believed she had finally found the ideal life she had seen glorified online. Eager to escape what she saw as an ordinary marriage, she left without hesitation. But reality hit hard. Jiang Dong soon revealed his true colors, toying with her feelings before heartlessly abandoning her. Filled with regret, Hu Pei returned to the home she once despised, hoping to reclaim her ordinary life. But by then, Zhang Liwei had already given up on her. Today, Chinese social media
Fantastic for that man to stand up for himself and say, you know what, you consider me second rate, you consider me, well, leftovers, so be it. Again, as women say, there are leftover women in China. Now there are leftover men, and for those leftover men to have the backbone to stand up to this woman and say, "Hey, I'm not taking this anymore. If you want to go be romanticized by this man, so be it. But listen, I will be back here when everything is said and done." And lo and behold, she was conned. She went back, and he was gone. So there you go. Another woman who with false pretenses and falling in love with what she hears rather than what she sees is left out in the cold once more, as it is in the West.
Media and self-media loudly promote female independence while simultaneously portraying marrying into wealth as life's ultimate success. Yet those who follow these narratives often find themselves facing harsh realities, as one veteran journalist bluntly exposed.
有的成功人士，有的富二代他一年可以换一个女朋友。Some wealthy elites, some second-generation rich guys change girlfriends every month. Many even date multiple women at the same time. The more attractive ones might get to stay around for a few extra days, but don't even talk about women's rights in front of them. You won't even have basic human rights.
Wow! You mean high value men around the world think the same? You mean the likes of Myron and from Fresh and Fit and Kevin Samuels and Legion of Men and Rollo Tomasi and all these different critics and red pill leaders in the space have been, and Andrew Tate has been telling you this, and yet Chinese women are starting to find this out.
Because when they've had their fun and tell you to leave, you have no choice but to go.
In a campus interview, a female student confidently said,
Dating doesn't come for free, right?
A sharp-witted respondent immediately pointed out the issue.
你为什么会用到免费这个词儿呢? Why are you using the word free? Let me ask you, what kind of things in this world actually require payment? Products? What exactly are you considering yourself to be?
The most deceptive toxic positivity narrative is the one about life after divorce. A matchmaker in Shenzhen put it bluntly.
There's this toxic positivity myth spreading online. Divorced women are in high demand. Single mums from a second marriage are sought after. I've been a matchmaker for a long time and I can tell you the truth. In the real Shenzhen dating market, if you're divorced and have a son, no matter how beautiful you are, the moment men hear that, they don't even want to meet you. Why? Because men today aren't willing to raise someone else's child anymore, especially if it's a boy. Men nowadays aren't that naive.
Some
Wow! Look at that! These gentlemen here are starting to catch on, even in the West. They don't want to be a stepdad. As Kevin said himself, it is a thankless job to be a stepdad. Now, if you find a woman who believes in you and supports you in every wish, then it's a case by case basis. But for the most part, yeah, it's a thankless job. It is a thankless job. It is a literal thankless job. And they see you as a cleanup man. They see you as a cook. They see you as a simp, and they see you as the guy who's there to correct their errors and correct their bad choices, which unfortunately, as said in China, no man's willing to take that. No man wants to deal with somebody else's child, especially uh, boy children, because they're then they'd be seen as second class citizens. They really, really would. And again, it hasn't come to a point now where where divorced women have had to support men because it's still a patriarchal society, and men are still expected to pay the bills. Men are still expected to be protectors and providers. Men are still expected to be the leaders of their families, and men are still expected to be the fall guys, especially in case of divorce. But men are starting to get wise to this, and men are starting to realize that why would I follow somebody else's lead? As in most cases, as Myron said, it's unless in extreme circumstances, being a stepdad is a fallacy. It's a lie. Kevin Samuels always said it himself. That and look, even in China, it's the same thing. No man wants to follow somebody else's children. Again, as it is in the wild, if you are seen as another species child, and another man comes and takes over the pack, takes over the fold, basically those children are killed or sent away. That's how it's handled in the wild. And it looks like things are seen as in a more on a more drastic and more draconian level here in China. But until it comes to a day where women start realizing that maybe as an incentive, they should try to you know help shoulder some of the household responsibilities to keep this man around, or try to help out with finances from this household being single and independent than themselves, then men aren't going to take the bait anymore, and things are very, very much more ruthless there than it is here in the Western world. Let's continue.
Independent social media platforms have even fabricated the myth of high quality men's clubs to mislead their audience.
Divorced women can only marry high quality men. They should never settle for ordinary men because ordinary men care too much about whether you've been married before.
Sounds like Sheer 7, doesn't it? Sounds like the Chinese Sheer 7. Ah, let's go.
Or if you've had children, your past matters to them. But in our club, elite men earning 5 to 6 million yuan a year don't mind if a woman has been divorced. To them, marriage isn't just about having kids or physical attraction. Marriage is about fulfilling dreams.
In response, a commentator angrily refuted. How much did you drink to be talking this nonsense? There is no such club. Be sure you can treat yourself like a fool tossing coins into a wishing well, thinking you'll get whatever you want. And let me ask, are there actually any big shots here making 5 or 6 million a year? Step up and comment. Is what this person is saying even true? These toxic positivity narratives are seriously distorting society's views on love and marriage. Take the widely circulated 101 things a man should do for a woman as an example. It sets unrealistic standards for love, defining actions like buying late night snacks at 3 a.m. and traveling to various destinations as measures of devotion. As a result, many otherwise stable relationships have fallen apart simply because they couldn't meet these exaggerated expectations. Misleading ideas such as only foolish women wait for a man to mature and older men are better than struggling young men further warp young people's values. Why has toxic positivity become so widespread? A veteran journalist analyzed.
Everyone knows that toxic positivity is harmful, but many women just love listening to it.
Remember, women fall in love with what they hear. Men fall in love with what they see. So if women hear all these romantic things, what a man should be, of course they're going to carry this to the ends of the earth, and it looks like this has now become of epidemic proportions, where most women in China expect men to be this, Christian Grey type character from 50 Shades of Grey, and it's unrealistic in and of itself because most men don't make that sort of money at all. I'm thinking there's a low standard of living for such men in China than it is here in the West, and yet they still are asking these men to measure up when they have no way of doing so, and so they choose not to be a part of the dating market with these women, thinking toxic positivity will bring them what they want at the end of the day, but they're unrealistic goals, to be fair. Let's continue.
Let me break it down for you. First, toxic positivity usually contains a bit of truth. If it were complete nonsense, no one would listen. For example, it's true that women face challenges when they leave their family homes, they enter a new family, take care of their in laws, raise children, endure their husband's temper, and basically become servants, and so on and so on. When women hear this, they feel overwhelmed. They think, this is so true, and they immediately hit follow for that influencer. But in reality, these narratives exist just to attract more women. After all, who doesn't know that women are the biggest spenders?
According to the 2024 Social Media and Youth Values Survey report released by a sociology research institute, 76.3% of women aged 18 to 35 consume toxic positivity content daily. Among them, 45.2% admitted that such content influenced their expectations of love and marriage, while 28.7% acknowledged having unrealistic fantasies as a result.
So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. It seems that the majority of Chinese youth, especially the 1835 demographic, believe that toxic positivity is real. It should be strived for, and that women are the prize. Literally, women are the prize. Where again, there's no justification for that because women are shunning traditional roles in China and think that men should wait on them hand and foot. And again, it's simply a shame that, simply a shame, but such is the means of capitalism. In a capitalist environment where social mores and laws are relaxed, this sort of environment happens, and Lord knows, feminism creeps in, and here we are. Let's continue.
Statistics from the Civil Affairs Department showed that in the first quarter of 2024, the divorce rate among people under 30 increased by 15.6% year over year. Of these divorces, 42.3% were attributed to irreconcilable values.
A smart woman wouldn't use online standards to judge her own husband because she understands that he has his own struggles too. A good marriage takes effort from both partners. It's about working together. Listen to me. Don't be misled by toxic positivity. If you want a good life, you have to build it step by step.
From a legal perspective, the most important factor in marriage is not material wealth, but character and sincerity. Shenzhen-based lawyer Chen Jianbin stated, "I have never seen a marriage built on genuine mutual love end in divorce. As a lawyer, I am even more determined not to let calculations take over my marriage. I spend my days outside fighting battles, but when I come home, all I want is a hot meal and a moment to clear my mind. You cook, I chop vegetables. You scrub the pot, I wash the dishes. A simple life, leaning on each other. Isn't that true happiness?" At the end of the day, the tragedy of Yan Dongping's case reflects the harsh realities of the CCP's systemic design. If not for suppressed wages and the rigid household registration system, Sheng Zhubao could have brought his wife and child to live together in Beijing, keeping the family united. But in reality, his salary wasn't enough to support a family of three in Beijing, and the Hukou household registration system prevented their child from attending school there.
Again, Beijing is one of the more expensive cities in the world, ladies and gentlemen. As expensive as Tokyo, expensive as Moscow, expensive as New York. Beijing has, I think, a population of near 25 million. Let's see about that Beijing population here. Beijing population 2025. Looking at 22,000, 596,000. So it's one of the more populous cities in the world, and to live there is extremely expensive. So much so that a man can't live with himself and his daughter on his salary alone. They'd have to get a small apartment to house him and his family, and she didn't think that good enough for them. So therefore, she wanted to move on, and in so doing, be rewarded for her departure within this marriage, even though this man was working tooth and nail in order to keep a family roof over his head. Such is the plights of man, unfortunately, and especially here in China, where capitalism and with a CCP governmental system has really forced men to live beyond their means in order to satisfy their woman, let alone keep a roof over their head. Let's continue.
This forced separation ultimately led to the breakdown of their marriage. It is also important to recognize that the China under the rule of the Chinese Communist Party has turned a blind eye to two dominant forms of toxic positivity in the online discourse on love and marriage. One promotes female independence while denying the value of partnership between men and women, fueling social division. The other glorifies materialism, encouraging a mindset of entitlement and discouraging hard work. Yet the authorities have deliberately allowed these harmful narratives to spread unchecked. This is in fact a carefully designed social control strategy. By fostering individualism and eroding social trust, the government makes the population more fragmented and easier to manage. By fueling gender conflicts, it diverts attention away from deeper societal issues. The glorification of entitlement and materialism weakens the moral foundation and cohesion of society, making people more susceptible to being driven by material desires. A divided and disjointed society ultimately serves to reinforce the existing power structure. Moreover, on social media, these topics often spark heated debates.
So yes, ladies and gentlemen. So they're saying that it's a sinister plot by the Chinese government to sever societies, keep them suppressed, and keep basically uh, keep society at each other's throats. So there would be no overthrow of the government, and no democracy needed here because they've been provided the well benefits of being in a capitalist society, and with that capitalist society, there is good and bad. Part of the good is being able to earn as much money as you want, but part of the bad is that a certain amount of people can't earn that money, and you must be attuned to the Communist Party in order to do it. So again, it means more money for the few, very few, and less money for most people. That in and of itself is the problem that we have to deal with in Chinese society. So it's a sad state of affairs there. However, it is done with the purpose of keeping society docile, keeping the society, without any sort of uprising and without any need for democracy, because, well, quite simply, you're getting capitalism. So with that capitalism comes the need for free choice, but there is no free choice because the Communist Party is ruling. However, women are still allowed to decide what their lives wish to be, and that is breaking down the nuclear family as it stands in China. Let's continue and finish off here.
Consuming vast amounts of public discourse. Meanwhile, critical discussions on livelihood issues and systemic reforms are drowned out. This tactic of burying real issues in noise is precisely what the authorities find most convenient.
Thank you for Chinese Observer here, ladies and gentlemen. This was a fascinating view into life in Japan. Let me bring it back up to the full screen. So, uh, do sign up for Chinese Observer, doing wonderful things in the YouTube streets. Uh, and do this and back to full. Sorry, YouTube. Sorry about that. Yes, there we go. And what is that? Let me make sure. There we go. Hey, there we go. So yes, ladies and gentlemen, this is what we have to deal with in China. Sorry for that little delay there. I got a little verklempt in terms of things. So this is what things have to are like in China, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, yeah. Uh, let's see if I can find this. Perfect. So this is what we have to deal with, ladies and gentlemen, in China. China, as seen by as stated by the Chinese Observer. This is a plot by the government of China, by the CCCP, the People's Party of China, to basically, divide and conquer the population, and that is ask women to demand more, ask men to work more, and with that, sever family ties, so that with that division comes the conquering of ideas, and basically keeping the ruling Communist Party in their place as the guiding force of society. And it's a very interesting systemic plan in which Chinese society is taking advantage of, indeed, feminism to quell any sort of uprising, especially when there are no real families to speak of. that is dwindling. Divorces are higher. There's a lack of children, so therefore there's less of a chance of an uprising against the Communist Party. So it's quite the sinister plan, but I think ingenious in the fact that they're using capitalism to control a state of people, and feminism has played a part in that. And it's unfortunate that things are as they are, but we are where we are in terms of this, and it very much mirrors the West. But the Chinese government uses this to their advantage in terms of controlling of their people. So thank you very much to China Observer, and the fact and pointing out uh, toxic positivity epidemic and how it indeed is impacting Chinese society, raising divorces, um, limiting men's chance to prosper in this day and age, and with that, keeping them poor and insolent, so that there is no chance of uprising. There's no chance of a working or ruling class because divorces have halved um, the wealth of Chinese men, unfortunately, especially those who have to work outside of their homes and outside of their cities in which their families are based. So it's a sad state of affairs, but it works well for the Communist Party. Thank you very much for joining me here at Talk Live here on IG and YouTube. Like, subscribe, comment on the road to 1,000 subscribers. We'll be back tomorrow night, and tomorrow night we are going to get into Cassie Ventura. We're going to get back into the Diddy trial. We're awaiting sentencing on October 3rd, 2025. That's happening again. They're remanding Diddy in custody because they see him as a flight risk. They see him as a danger to society, especially with his violent outbreaks. However, in terms of violent outbreaks, in terms of sinister women, it is alleged that Cassie was one of them, and she's being sued now for passing on an STD and also ruining a man's livelihood and life in having these free calls. So we're going to discuss that more at length tomorrow night on Talk Live. On Friday, we're going to try and get the Tyler Perry divorce. I didn't say divorce. Lawsuit that's happening that's accounting for $250 million, in which a person who uh, allegedly had been essayed by Tyler Perry is suing for $1 million simply because of promises made by Tyler Perry to provide shows and being well, I say sugar daddy on behalf of said gentleman. And we'll get into that on Friday at Talk Live. Can't believe it is, but again, it is celebrity, and so we have to discuss that here at Talk Live. Celebrity in the law, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for joining me here at Talk Live. We'll be back tomorrow night. We thought we'd get this in within the hour so that YouTube and Instagram followers can follow us here. Again, we are back on OBS, and it is fantastic to see us thriving here on Talk Live anyway. So we're going to get this in before 11 o'clock. Thank goodness. And thank you very much for joining me at Talk Live. A little longer show with regards to Cassie and um, what's going on in her life. She has won a $30 million lawsuit with Diddy, and now she's being sued. So again, um, you know, a bit of yeah, a bit of legal issues to deal with tomorrow, and look forward to speaking to you then. So we're gonna say goodnight for right here for Talk Live. Thank you very much for joining me, and